Hi, I'm Lynette. I am a career specialist here at the Career Center of the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Today, I'd like to talk about how to succeed at a job fair. So job fairs can be a very useful tool in your job search toolkit because usually you'll have a chance to meet several employers at one location, and you'll have a chance to meet with them one-on-one and make a personal connection. So this can be a great option if you do it well. On the other hand, if you're not properly prepared, you might end up leaving a bad impression instead of a good one. Now, over the course of my years working with the Career Center and attending job fairs, I've seen certain mistakes that people tend to keep making at job fairs. Here's a list of some of the most common ones. Appearance. If you're not properly dressed for the job fair, that can hurt you. If you bring your children to the job fair, we've seen this many times, and it always makes these people look like they're more concerned about their family than about their jobs. While this may be true for you personally, it's definitely not the impression that you want to give at a job fair. Resume mistakes. We see this a lot. People who don't bring their resume to the job fair at all, or they don't bring enough copies, or that the resume that they bring is not very well done. These are all things that could hurt your chances. If you go up to every single booth and ask, "What are you hiring for? How about you? What are you hiring for?" This can make you look unfocused and underprepared. If you don't talk to the hiring manager when you have a chance to meet with them and establish that connection, if you blow that opportunity, that's going to hurt your chances. If you don't have appropriate body language, that's not going to leave a great first impression. If you're not able to fully answer the questions that the hiring manager asks of you. And finally, if you don't follow up after the job fair, you've missed an opportunity. So these are all of the most common mistakes that we see people make at job fairs. Today we're going to talk about a better way. So to begin with, you want to make sure that you prepare for the job fair ahead of time, usually several days ahead of time. Here are the things you want to make sure that you prepare, and we'll talk about each one in a little bit more detail. You want to prepare your research into the job fair, your resume, your outfit, your 30-second elevator pitch, your interview skills, and of course, you want to arrange childcare ahead of time. So now let's talk in a little bit more detail about how to research the job fair. Before you go into a job fair, you want to find out as much as you can about which companies are going to be there. This should be available in the information for the job fair or on the job fair organizer's website. Once you find out who's going to be there, look up these individual companies, check their websites, see what kinds of positions they have available and what they're going to be hiring for. Your ultimate goal is to figure out which companies you're interested in, where you want to focus your efforts at the job fair. Once you've made a list of which of these companies you're interested in, do a little bit more research about each one of these companies. Find out more about the products and services that they offer, a little bit about their history, their situation, their values, the kinds of things that you'll be able to talk about in an interview with this company. Then, you want to make sure that you go ahead and fill out the online application for this position ahead of time. That way, when you get to meet with the hiring manager at the job fair, you can say, "I've already filled out the application. I just wanted to meet you one-on-one and establish a personal connection." That's going to give them the opportunity to move forward with accepting your application. All right, once you've done your research, next you want to prep your resume. A few helpful hints about resumes for the job fair. One page is preferable because everyone at a job fair is going to be drowning in papers. If you only have one page, that's much easier for them to keep track of. If you do have to have a 2-page resume, make sure it's firmly stapled. As always, you want a resume that's going to be very easy for them to read, well organized, clear section headings, large enough font, and of course, free of typos. In terms of content, you always want your resume to emphasize your best, most relevant skills and experience. So not a giant list of everything you've ever done, but instead a streamlined, targeted sales pitch. And for the job fair, you want to print out many copies of your resume because you want to be absolutely sure you have enough copies to give to every single hiring manager that you're interested in speaking with. Final tips on the resume. They generally prefer a chronological or hybrid template. These are the more traditional formats. But if you have an unstable work history, we'd probably recommend using a functional template instead, even though that's less traditional. Be careful about age discrimination. You want to make sure that you don't go back more than 15 to 20 years on your work history. For the same reason, we don't recommend putting graduation dates unless it was fairly recent. On the other hand, if you're a young person who doesn't have much work experience yet, you're going to structure your resume a little bit differently. You're going to put your education at the top, and you're going to go into more detail on things like extracurricular activities, academics, volunteer work, to help flesh out this document. Finally, if you need any help with anything resume related, you can come to us. So if you're in the Baton Rouge area, you can come to the Career Center in person for resume help. If not, you can visit our website for our free downloadable resume templates. And we also have many resume-related videos on our YouTube channel. So now that you've gotten your resume together, your next step is to prep your outfit for the job fair. As you can see by this picture, the way you're dressed is going to definitely influence the way people see and envision you. These are two different pictures of the same guy, but he looks very different. Why? Outfit. So for the job fair, you want an outfit that looks professional, generally fairly formal, fairly conservative, the kind of thing that you would wear to a job interview. Let's take a look at some do's and don'ts. So this is a don't. This is not appropriate attire for the job fair. Why? Giant sunglasses that cover up his face. He's wearing a t-shirt, way too casual. He has exposed tattoos. For the job fair, you want to cover that up. This is also a don't. Generally, you want to take out piercings for the interview and for the job fair for any kind of situation like this. Because you don't know ahead of time how conservative the hiring manager is going to be. You don't want to shock them with things like multiple facial piercings, very unusual hair colors. Generally, keep it a little bit more conservative than this. This is also a don't, even though this individual is very dressed up and has clearly put a lot of effort into her appearance. But it's the wrong kind of dressed up. This is more of an evening look, more for going to a nightclub than for going to an office. Why? Large, clunky jewelry, very heavy makeup, too much skin showing. All of this is giving off the wrong impression for a job fair situation. Here's an example of someone who's doing almost everything right. Almost, but there's one large, glaring problem. The shirt's way too low cut. For a job fair situation, you want to be a little bit more formally dressed than this. You don't want to show very much skin. Other than that, she's doing lots of things right. Minimal makeup, minimal jewelry, hair's well styled and away from her face. She even has a great smile. Lots of things right, one thing wrong. Here's an example of somebody who's doing everything right in terms of his outfit. He's very well dressed with a dress shirt and tie. He's got a belt, his shirt's tucked in. He's got a great smile. I'm not crazy about the folded arms. It looks a little hostile, but other than that, this gentleman's doing everything right. This is another example of a yes, do this, please. Here we have a woman who's got minimal makeup, minimal jewelry, neutral colored outfit. I love the suit jacket. I also love the fact that she has a folder to keep track of all of the papers that she's going to be handed at the job fair. Very well done. Here's another example of someone who's doing it right. Even though he's not nearly as dressed up as the previous two that we looked at, this is still a good choice, depending on what kind of job you're interested in. If he was applying for a mid to upper level office position, I'd say this was too casual. But if he's applying for an entry level position, especially a position in blue collar work or skilled trades or manual labor, this is perfectly appropriate. And we generally do recommend work shirt, polo shirt, and khakis for somebody who's in the blue collar field. So, well done. All right, moving on from outfit, next we get to the pitch, specifically the elevator pitch. What is an elevator pitch? Here's what that's about. Imagine that you're in an elevator with someone who has the power to give you your dream job. You've got the length of this elevator ride to make a good impression on this person, make a connection, and convince them that they should give you your dream job. What do you say? This is your elevator pitch, and this is what you're going to say to hiring managers at the job fair. What does it consist of? Well, of course, you introduce yourself. You tell them about what kind of work you're looking for and why you'd be a great fit for it, what kind of skills and experience you have that would make you a good choice for this type of job. Let's look at a couple of examples. Hello, my name is John Doe, and I'm interested in becoming a delivery driver with your company. I have 3 years of professional experience as a delivery man for FedEx, and I think I'd make a great addition to your team. Simple and easy. Name, job he's interested in, why he'd be a good fit for it. Let's take a look at another example. Hi, I'm Jane Doe. I would love to be considered for your medical assistant opening. I just received my certification as a medical assistant, and I am passionate about the healthcare industry. So this is an example for someone who doesn't have much relevant experience yet. She focuses on what she does have. She has a brand new certification, and she has a passion for working in this field. You may want to pause the video at this point and try your own elevator pitch. Take a few moments to craft what you want to say. That way, when you're at the job fair, you won't get tongue-tied, but you'll know exactly how to introduce yourself to the hiring manager. Our final thing that we want you to prep before you get to the job fair is your interview skills. Now, it's not guaranteed that you're going to be interviewed on the spot at the job fair. A lot of employers aren't going to have the time to do that, but some of them will, and they will expect you to be ready. It's probably going to be a pretty short interview, usually about 15 minutes, maybe 30 at the most. But you want to get ready for it by planning and rehearsing your answers ahead of time. You probably have a pretty good idea of what kinds of questions are going to be asked. You can rehearse and write down your answers ahead of time so you know what to say. I would also recommend writing down some questions to ask them if you do have the opportunity to do so. If you need assistance with getting ready for an interview, we can help. You can call us to schedule a practice interview one-on-one, or if you're not in the Baton Rouge area, I definitely recommend that you watch our YouTube videos about answering common job interview questions. Speaking of common job interview questions, here are a few of the ones you're most likely to see at a job fair. Tell me about yourself. What are your qualifications for this job? Why do you want the job? Or alternately, why are you interested in this company? Why should we hire you? What are your greatest strengths? Tell me about a time you had a conflict with a coworker. And tell me about a time that you overcame an obstacle. All of these are questions you should be ready to answer before you head into the job fair. So, you've done all of your prep work, your resume, your outfit, your research, your interview, and your 30-second pitch. Now, the day of the fair has arrived. You need a plan of attack. Before you head into the fair, make sure that the kids are at home. You want to double check your appearance to make sure everything's looking professional and neat. Make sure that you have enough copies of your resume. You want to get there early. I cannot overstate the importance of this. A lot of people think that if a job fair starts at 10 o'clock and ends at 2 o'clock, they don't have to be there the whole time. They could get there, later, say noon, and they'll be fine. Usually that's not fine. I'd recommend you try to be there exactly when the job fair starts, because some of the employers will leave early. They might get enough resumes within the first hour and then leave. And if that's the case and you don't show up until later, you've missed the opportunity to speak with that hiring manager. We recommend to get there at the very start of the fair. Once you're there, try to get a hold of a map of the layout of the fair. This should be handed out somewhere near the entrance to the fair. Take a look at the map, figure out where the employers that you're most interested in talking to, where their booths are, and plan your order of attack. Who are you going to talk to first, in what order? That way you make sure that you get to all of the most important people without having to do too much backtracking. So, you've planned your order of attack. Now you're actually meeting with the hiring manager. You want to make sure that you make a good first impression. Be friendly, introduce yourself, don't get tongue-tied, overcome your nervousness and shyness so that you can introduce yourself and make a good first impression. You want to launch into your elevator pitch that you practiced already. Make sure that you put your resume into their hands, and make sure that you have a moment to speak with them and introduce yourself. Maintain appropriate body language throughout, of course, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later. Make sure that before you leave the hiring manager, you ask them about the next steps in the process so that you know what to expect. And make sure that you get their business card. If they don't have a business card, make sure that you write down their information, their name, their company, and their contact info. This is so that you can follow up with this individual after the job fair. So, let's talk about body language a little bit. You want to make sure that you're appropriately giving off the right signals. Start with a nice, firm, confident handshake. Make sure that you look them directly in the eyes while you're speaking. This is going to indicate confidence and trustworthiness, that you believe in what you're saying. You want to have a nice smile, be friendly, be approachable always. Good tall posture, whether you're standing or sitting or waiting in line, slouching and slumping is not going to give off a good impression. And of course, you want to avoid nervous fidgeting. This is the kind of thing that might drive a hiring manager crazy. Follow these steps and you will look professional. Now let's talk about what you should and shouldn't expect out of the job fair experience. Do not expect that you're going to walk away from the job fair with a job offer. It doesn't happen that quickly. Employers need to go through official approval channels. They need to run background checks. The hiring process is generally not something that can happen in a single day. But what might happen in that single day is that you are officially interviewed for the job. You want to be ready for that, just in case that happens. Do not expect that every company that's there is actually going to have an available job. Some of them won't. Some companies go to hiring fairs even though they're not hiring right now. Why would they do that? Well, there are a few reasons. Some do it for brand recognition reasons to get their name out there in people's minds. Many companies will do this so that they can have a portfolio of resumes for when they do have a job available. Whatever their reasons for being at a job fair, even though they don't have jobs to offer, you want to make sure that you react to this disappointment like a professional. Stay polite. Be courteous to them. You don't want to burn your bridges here. You want to leave a good impression, even if they don't have a job. Because a few months from now, they might have a job opening. And they'll remember if you were nice to them at the job fair. And they'll especially remember if you weren't. So be polite, be professional, don't burn those bridges. Do not expect employers to have time for an extended conversation with you. They may not be able to answer all of your questions. They might be in a hurry. Be respectful of their time and their needs. But if they do have a chance to speak with you, you want to make sure that you have done the research and that you know something about the company so that you can talk intelligently about them and why you'd be a good fit for them. So you've survived the job fair. You're done, right? Nope. Now comes the most important step of all, following up after the job fair. A hiring manager might meet hundreds of people on the day of a job fair. They're not going to make the effort to reach out to each individual person. That's on you. So, first, you want to make sure that you filled out the online application for this position so that that roadblock is taken care of. Next, you want to send a follow-up letter to every single company that you're interested in, even if they don't have a job opening right now. You want to do this quickly, usually within 24 to 48 hours. You want to email them with your resume, just in case they can't find the resume that you gave them in person at the job fair. When you send this letter, you want to make sure that you don't sound pushy, that you're not like demanding a job, and that you're not like desperately begging for a job. You want to keep it cool and keep a nice professional demeanor. Here are a couple of examples of ways to do that. I enjoyed meeting with you at the job fair yesterday. Everything you said about your company makes it seem like it would be a great fit for me. I also think that my 5 years of previous clerical experience would make me a strong asset. I just finished your online application and I look forward to hearing from you. So this is a very strong follow-up letter. Reminds the person where they met them, reminds them this is the kind of job I'm interested in and here's why I'd be a good fit for it. And finishes with the next steps. I've done the application, that's done, ball's in your court, I look forward to hearing from you. Very nice. But what if you're following up with a company that doesn't actually have a job opening right now? Here's what that would look like. I loved learning about your company at yesterday's job fair. I know you're not hiring at the moment, but I do hope you keep me in mind for the future. I think that my programming certifications could be a great match for your needs. I'm attaching my resume for your files. Okay, so reaches out, reminds them what their field of expertise is, and says, keep me in mind for the future. And I think the company definitely will keep this person in mind for the future. Well done. So all of these are fantastic examples of how to prepare for and succeed at an in-person job fair. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about a virtual job fair. Virtual job fairs are something that became a lot more common during the pandemic, and I think to some degree they're around to stay. So a virtual job fair event might look like you register for this event, and then you're sent a link to your email. You follow the link the day of the event, and you're brought to an online streaming platform such as Skype, WebEx, Zoom, something like this. And you are in this large group with several other hiring managers and several other people who are looking for jobs. and you're able to talk to hiring managers, usually in a breakout room. This is kind of overwhelming for people who aren't familiar with this kind of technology already. So let's talk a little bit about some of the do's and don'ts of the virtual job fair. Some things are exactly like an in-person job fair. You want to dress professionally, you want to have appropriate body language, you want to be able to speak intelligently with the hiring manager, all of that exactly the same as an in-person job fair. You want to make sure that you have all of your documents with you, whether you're talking about physical documents or digital documents. For example, if they ask for your resume, you can email your resume directly to the hiring manager or send them a link to it through the chat of the virtual job fair. You want to make sure you have that stuff ready ahead of time. Your surroundings are important. You want to make sure you're somewhere quiet, that you're not going to be disturbed, you have good internet connection, and you have the right equipment. Generally, this means a computer with a webcam and a microphone. If you don't have the right equipment or a right space for this, I'd recommend that you ask your local library for help. Here at the Career Center, for example, we have a laptop, webcam, and study room that we lend out to the public for job fair and online interview related purposes. Let's talk a little bit more about the technology involved in a virtual job fair. Generally, it's a better idea to use a computer, a laptop, rather than a phone. The image just isn't as good on the phone, the connection often isn't as good, it's just not as great. But if you have to use a phone, if that's your only option, make sure that you have a tripod for your phone, something that you can place it on that will elevate it to the height of your eyes and will keep it steady. You want to make sure that you register for the virtual job fair ahead of time and make sure that you've filled out everything involved in it as much as you possibly can. Some of them will let you go ahead and upload your resume to the virtual job fair ahead of time. If that's an option, you definitely want to do that. Find out as much as you can about the software that will be used for the virtual job fair. What program are they using? Do I need to download something? Figure out as much as you can ahead of time so that there are less headaches the day of. When you enter into the program that they're using for this virtual job fair, double check your settings. Make sure that people can hear you and that you can hear them. Make sure that your video camera is turned on. Also double check how your name appears for this job fair. Is it showing up as your name or the name of your computer? You want it to be your name. Now let's talk about the surroundings, what you want your environment to look like when you log into this virtual job fair. You want to have a very plain or simple background. You want to make sure that there's nothing distracting behind you. No cluttered shelves, no large, colorful, distracting paintings. Keep it simple. You want to have soft, if at all possible, natural lighting. But you want the lighting to be above you or in front of you, never behind you. If you're lit from the back, the people in front of you are not going to be able to see you clearly. Be careful of the angle. You never want to be looking down into the camera. The camera should never be below you. If it is, you get the dreaded double chin. You want the camera to be at eye height or slightly higher. When you are in the virtual job fair, you want to make sure that you're looking at the camera, not at your image on the screen. When you log into one of these meetings and you see a little image of yourself in the corner of the computer screen, you're going to want to look at it. It's only natural. But to the person seeing you, that's going to look like you're looking away in the corner. You don't want to look like that. You want to look at them, which means looking at your camera. If this is a problem for you, you may want to put a little sticker or post-it note, something next to the camera to give you that visual cue to keep your eyes trained there. Also, you can have notes, absolutely. You can have papers with you. But be aware, you're on camera, they can see you. So if they see you studiously reading from a page while you're answering their questions, that might not be the best look. Just be aware of how you're coming across to people and pull your head up out of your notes. Here we have kind of a goofus and gallant approach of what you should and should not do for preparing for your virtual job fair. So we see here my coworker is backlit from behind him, which puts him in shadow and makes him much more difficult to see. He's also got the camera at an angle where it's below him. He's looking down into it, and he's got the dreaded double chin thing going on. Not the greatest choice. On the other hand, in this picture, my coworker is lit from the front, so it's very clearly easy to see him. He's also looking up into the camera, so it's a more friendly angle for him to be seen at. Much better. Finally, you want to make sure that you practice ahead of time, particularly if you're not already familiar with online video technology. If you're somebody who normally routinely uses Skype or Zoom or WebEx, this may not be as relevant. But if this is fairly new for you, you definitely want to practice before the day of the job fair. You can practice using one of these services with your friends, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, you can practice with us. These services, you can get an account for free, so you want to do that ahead of time so that you can practice what it's like. I would also recommend practicing the breakout rooms. This is a very common feature of virtual job fairs. You have the big room where everybody meets, and then you have little breakout rooms where you and the hiring manager meet one-on-one so that you can talk. I would recommend that you practice doing this ahead of time so it doesn't catch you off guard the day of. I'd also recommend that you record this practice session. I know, that sounds a little bit uncomfortable. You want me to record myself and then watch and listen to the video. No, thank you, please. Yeah, I get it. It's uncomfortable, but it's a very valuable experience. When you look at yourself and you listen to yourself, you see how you're coming across on video. It can help you to notice problems that you maybe weren't aware of, and that gives you a chance to fix those problems before the day of your virtual job fair. Lastly, I just want to say if you need help with any of this stuff, please feel free to reach out to us. I've included all of our contact information here, our physical location in the main library on Goodwood in Baton Rouge, our phone number, website, YouTube channel, and our Twitter and Facebook accounts. Again, please feel free to reach out if you need help with anything preparing for your in-person or virtual job fair. Well, that about wraps it up. If you liked this video, please hit like, and if you'd like to see more content from us like this, please hit subscribe. Thank you.